All right, back here on All Abilities Live, we have a very special guest, recent champion with the Staten Island Giants, and going to play on at the collegiate level, Staten Island's very own Oliva Rijo. Olivia, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Talk about the growth of your sport right now. This is absolutely amazing. We just saw you compete on ESPN going against the nation's very best. What was that experience like for you?
It was honestly one of the best experiences I've ever had since I started playing football back in 2019. I never thought I'd be where I am today. I started just playing on the local level, and my coach was like, he was like, we're going to go head to a tournament in Pennsylvania. Like, do you want to come? Like, there are other girls that like to play like you do. And I was like, oh, wow, sure, let's go. Back then, I was definitely not at the skill level that I am today, but I had fun, and I kind of fell in love with it. And then watching it bloom into the sport that it is today, it has been crazy. I never would have thought that I would see myself on ESPN, or I was literally watching the Hall of Fame game, which was yesterday, and one of the commercial breaks was literally one of my catches. I was like, I could have never imagined this happening.
This is the Oliva Rijo special, all right? They do corner routes with her all the time from this tight split alignment. I call her the corner queen. Why? Because she scored on this play about 5 times throughout this tournament. Every single time they get into these situations, they find a way to roll, foul to the left, and get Rijo a touchdown in the back of the end zone.
Beautiful job. I mean, look, remember, these girls also play in college together, so they already have this relationship.
What's it like for you to be a pioneer of this sport? Very recent, you've played with the Staten Island Giants for 5 years. Everybody that talks about it, they said 2 to 3 years ago, this was nothing like the, I guess you could say, atmosphere is like today. What's it like being a trailblazer?
Honestly, it's one of the best feelings in the world, knowing that I'm doing what I love and what I have such a passion for, and that it's also helping grow the sport for all the girls to come. I have a younger sister who actually plays flag too, and knowing that every time I put my cleats on, every time I step on the field, every opportunity that I'm given, every time I speak to people like you guys, it just adds a little notch to the sport, and it brings flag football just a little bit higher on everyone's radar, means that there are so many girls that are going to have opportunities that even I wasn't able to be presented with, and it's a blessing to know that.
Absolutely. Being a woman that's watched women just grow as a sport in general is magical, but seeing flag football is even more magical, because like I was telling Maz earlier, I really learned flag football from Instagram, and so my question to you is, who's one of your biggest people that you look up to, whether it's a coach or a player that is professional ladies flag football or college? I know that it's starting to grow a little bit more, but is there anybody that you've watched from the beginning?
I mean, as far as flag goes, I feel like there was always like a big highlight around. So we actually just played this team in the semifinals, Texas Fury.
Yep.
There was always like a big hype around them, and I feel like once we went to the first nationals that we went to in 2019 and we saw them, we were like, wow, this team, they know what they're doing. And I feel like there was always kind of like we were always watching them in the same way that they were always watching us. Once they realized that we kind of knew what we were doing and we realized they knew what they were doing, it was always like a back and forth between the two of us. So I guess you could say we've kind of always been watching each other. I've always been seeing like their highlights were some of the first ones I ever saw, and I was like, wow, like these girls know how to play. And then we slowly followed after, and then now we go back and forth.
Absolutely. What was the thing that drew you to flag?
You know, I tell this story and people are so shocked by it, but I had no clue what I wanted to do. I actually was this is kind of funny, I was in the band for 5 years, and at some point I was like, you know what, it just kind of doesn't feel like me. Like, I need to go figure out what, like, when you figure out what's you know it. Like,
Absolutely.
You feel it in your heart, you feel it in your soul, like, this is where I'm supposed to be, and that just wasn't it for me. So my dad was driving me around, and he saw a sign on the side of the road for my local league, and he was like, hey, do you want to go check it out? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, we'll give it a shot. And when I put my cleats on, I was like, this is gonna be it for me. And then also the girls that I started with were so supportive, and they were so nice, and they were all a little bit older than me, and I'm the oldest, so like having like that older sister figure to look to, I kind of fell in love with the environment that they created for me. I fell in love with the coaches, with the sport, and from there it just blossomed.
Go ahead.
Speaking of it blossoming, of course, your career going to be blossoming, going on to play at Kaiser University.
Yes.
I got to be honest with you. Where is that? How did you get involved there? And talk about the sport now entering not only the collegiate level, but the Olympics as well.
Yeah. So Kaiser University is in West Palm Beach in Florida.
Nice.
Very excited to be heading out to sunny Florida. So there are actually 2 girls on my travel team, the Staten Island Giants, that are going into their sophomore year at Kaiser University. So I already knew about the school because of them. And I also spoke to the old head coach before. So once I was like, it was time to like start thinking about college or whatever, Kaiser was kind of on the top of my list because, you know, it was Florida, I can't lie. And then once I got talking to the coaches and I like realized their values aligned a lot with mine, excuse me.
You good?
I realized that that was a place that I saw myself, and so I ended up committing, I believe, earlier this year, maybe around March. And then there's also another girl on my Staten Island Giants team who is committing there as well.
What you going to be majoring in?
I'm going into criminal justice, but like forensics concentrated. Very excited.
So talk to me about, you know, I'm sure with the Olympics going in, any aspirations taking this all the way?
You know, I do. I have high hopes. I know that it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of effort, as anything will. I mean, you're looking to represent your country on quite literally the biggest stage you can. But I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to take the time. I'm willing to dedicate anything that I need to get myself where I want to be, which is on that roster in 2028.
Well, I can say from somebody that is much older than you, that still puts their shoes on every day and has maybe not felt that they found their spot, because what I'm doing now is, I would say, Maz and I, what we aspire to be doing.
Sure.
But we are not 18, and we did not feel that at that moment. You are going in the right direction to probably go for a very long time, until a very old age, and live a happy life playing flag football. And I'm just impressed with your poise, and you look like you've been doing this for a very long time. So you're doing all the right things, and you're being on this field with all of these young ladies trying out and being able to answer the questions, or hey, I'm feeling like my hips aren't turning the right way, and you have these answers because you've gone through all these and played through all these same teams. But also, like, is there an opportunity for you to continue to learn when you come to things?
Oh,
here?
absolutely. You're never done learning.
That's a great answer, because you are never. But when you come to things like this and you're back into the environment where you kind of originated, is there anything that you walk in and be like, this is one thing that I really want to soak up from this moment? Like, maybe I can learn this. Do you ever have that conversation in your head?
So I feel like anytime when I come to like an environment like this, like especially a combine, I feel like you can always learn new things from everyone, because flag is one of those sports where there's no one specific way to play it. Yes, there are rules, and yes, there are the basics. Yes, there's the hit move, the dip, like how to run your routes, but everyone has their own little flair to it. Everyone has their own little specialty, and I feel like when you come to things like this, you can watch and you can notice, you can be like, wow, wait, I really like the way that she ran that route. Like, I like her break off the line. And you can kind of take that and mold it into your own, and that's what creates such unique players, because every player creates their own style, and then you can pick up on other people's style, you know, mix it, make it your own. And I think that's a really important lesson to learn, because like I said, you're always growing, you're always learning, and so to not stay stagnant and maybe like somewhere where you're not really seeing improvement, you can come out to these things and learn new things every single time. That keeps you growing into a phenomenal athlete.
Absolutely.
And speaking of, you know, learning, trying new things, growing into that player, for young ladies that want to get involved, what would you say is the most important aspect of the game for them to focus on?
So I feel like a lot of people get wrapped up in the physical aspect of it, which, mind you, obviously the physical aspect is important. You want to make sure you have your hands up, all that kind of good stuff. But I also feel like flag is a really big mental game, especially with it being thrown in the spotlight as of recently, where I feel like people get overwhelmed, or they see a lot of boys playing the sport, where it's like you really just have to focus on you and do you, because it took me forever to realize that, like, I'm the only person that can control me, and that I can't compare myself to everyone else, because, like I said, everyone has their own style of doing things. So if I continue to compare myself to everyone else, I'm never going to improve myself. So I feel like the most important lesson that I can tell people is to focus on you, do what makes you comfortable, and just find that fire within you to keep going and to improve every day.
One last question for you here. I see the number 22 on the
Yes.
chain. Talk about the significance.
So it's actually just my birthday, but my birthday is February 22nd, so 222. So 2 is like a very significant number to me. But actually, when I started playing football, I was originally going to play with 13, because that was like a family number, but 13 was taken on the roster that I was going to play on. So I was like, you know what, let me play with 22. And honestly, I think that was the best decision I ever made, because I feel like I've kind of turned that number into me. Like, I feel like that's my personality. Like, if I had the opportunity to change my number to 13, I never would, because I feel like I've kind of made 22 my own, and I'm proud of it.
definitely making it your own and definitely blazing your own trail as a pioneer in the sport. We appreciate you taking the
Thank you
time.
so much for having me.
2028 Olympics and Kaiser University. Watch out because a star is coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it.